I think it's like a beautiful scholarship. I have friends who have the Australian awards. Why I'm saying beautiful because their own stipend is, higher than our own and other things attached to it. So the Australian government pays for you to come from your country and you do your master's degree here. So it only because the form is just straightforward.
Okay. So now, one thing I want to also get now is this scholarship for just science or science and art or medical? Because you're a medical student.
Everyone, like
Everybody, art,
engineering,
science, med. So hey guys, welcome back to Chilo Talks. And if you're new here, please consider checking out the other content and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So today, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. So today we'll be learning more about scholarships, and to this effect, we'll be going all the way to Australia. So I have with me Namdi. Brief story, background story. Namdi was the one that attacked me. He attacked me on my study US video, and he was like, "Do Australia," and I said, "Okay, please, can you jump on this for me?" So I'm really grateful he accepted to grace my channel. So hello, Namdi.
Hi, Joa.
Okay, okay, first of all, on behalf of everybody watching, thank you once again for taking out time from your busy schedule to do this interview with me. So
Yeah.
can you briefly, introduce yourself for us?
All right. So before I start, I was just going to say, please disregard whatever you are seeing behind because this is a PhD student's office. So you can imagine what everything is happening at the back there. So anyway, my name is Nnamdi Mwemena. I'm from Nigeria. I'm doing my PhD in physiotherapy. And just a little bit of the background about me. I did my undergrad in medical rehabilitation, physiotherapy in University of Nigeria. Graduated in 2011, worked for 2 years. Like that's my internship and my youth service. So I finished youth service in 2014 and came back to Enugu because I was born and bred in Enugu, eastern part of Nigeria. So I also worked in a military hospital for 1 year. It was more like a voluntary job. Yeah. So I was being paid, but wasn't really paid what I should be paid, but it doesn't matter anyway. So I worked there, started my master's in 2016 at University of Lagos, and I did it for 2016. It was 1 year, so I graduated in 2017. And my master's was still in cardiopulmonary physiotherapy, so we're just focusing on the heart and the lungs. So that's the focus area for cardiopulmonary. And yeah, so finished that, and this phase of what to do next,
Yeah.
and I wanted to do PhD, and so I was talking to one of my lecturers in Unilag, and she was like, "Oh, try abroad and everything." To be honest, I've never been like traveling abroad. I just said I want to get my master's degree and also go back to University of Nigeria and just see if I can get a lecturing job and start PhD there. Just live my quiet life. I don't want stress. So, and the whole thing. It's funny, really. That was what I wanted. So, and I could remember um, that during my master's degree, there was something funny that happened. So there is this conference in physiotherapy, very popular. It's called the World Confederation for Physical Therapy, WCPT. So that's the highest conference for physiotherapy. So one day during my master's degree, the lecturer said, how many of you are going to WCPT in 2017 in South Africa? And me, because I like staying in the front row, I was just raised up my hand. I was, playing me. I want anywhere there's enjoyment, I need to go there. So I just said, yeah. So he said, oh, is it only Nnamdi? And I was like, okay. So he said, raise up your hand. So I now raised up my hand. He now said, so what are you planning to present? And I'm like, okay, that's for like the older physios and the older lecturers, colleagues, I'm just a master's student. It's like, no, you can present your master's thesis. So long
Wow.
story cut short, yeah, I sent in an abstract, got accepted after my master's. And I think they sent an email in February in 2017. Then in July, June, July, I went to South Africa to present a poster. And that was like, yeah, it was like, oh, it was a transition point. That's what I was saying. So it was a transition point for me though. And went there, I stayed for a week and, and that was how the Australian story just started in the background, which I'll still talk about anyway. So yeah, and I came back. That was when I came back. I told myself, Namdi, I have to tell myself the truth. You deserve better. You
Yeah.
deserve better things. So you need to look for,
Put yourself
ways you
out.
can. Yeah, I know, So like you have to get the best, So and I now started the whole journey applying to Australia and New Zealand, Canada. I couldn't get Canada, didn't get New Zealand, but Australia. In 2018, I came here in May and yeah, so started my master's officially 2nd of July 2018. So I'm in my third year now, right now.
Masters or PhD, you mean?
Oh, sorry. Started my PhD. So I started my PhD in 2018 and I'm in my third year right now. Oh, maybe I'm
Wow.
hypoglycemic already. I need sugar.
Yeah. Wow. That's really a very interesting background story. For so many people, they get their eureka moments at different points. And so I guess the South African trip was your eureka moment. So now let's talk about Australia.
Yeah.
How can you just like run through, how application scholarship process works over there in Australia? Because so many people want to know what is really happening in Australia, Australia and some other countries out there. So I would like to know too.
So about Australia, I think to be honest, I one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Australia or New Zealand, I wanted somewhere that was far from home. And I wanted, somewhere that they did quite well in physiotherapy. So not just somewhere far from home, somewhere that was doing very well. And I knew I was going to get the best. So, I applied to, my first choice was Australia and Canada, then New Zealand. So I didn't get New Zealand, didn't get Canada, then I applied and I got Australia. So it was really funny though. When I keep saying I got Australia, it wasn't like, it was more like this. So I had applied in 3 universities in Australia, 2 turned down. They couldn't give me an admission. Then this one, because I'm a PhD student at James Cook University in Townsville, Australia. So I just sent an email to my supervisor. So it was really funny because at night I used to stay awake. The internet was strong at night, so I could, go through university's website and everything. Sent an application, and obviously, I had to make sure I had all the package ready. I had written my IELTS, I had written my proposal, and I had, all my transcript, everything already notarized. So I just sent all my documents to her and she accepted. So, it was from there. She said, oh, the topic was quite interesting. And she said she was going to help me to get a secondary supervisor because you have to have 2 supervisors for a PhD student. Yeah. Yeah. So she helped me to get a secondary supervisor. Then when I applied, to do my PhD, our uni had this protocol. You have to get a supervisor first. So once you get a supervisor, then you can work your way through, do the preliminary discussions, and make sure everyone is on the same page. And after that, you can now apply for admission. Then apply for admission. Then you now apply for scholarship.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
So that was how they did back then. But things have changed now. So for me, I applied for admission first, then apply for scholarship because both of them are different paperworks. So finished admission. I think I got the admission in September, and I was done waiting for scholarship. So scholarship was meant to be sometime announced in December, January. Yeah. So and I couldn't get a scholarship. So but I had to come here as a full fee paying student. So it was really daunting. One thing we have to know about Australian scholarships is it's highly competitive, very, very competitive. But that doesn't mean I'm discouraging anybody from, applying. It's because the scholarships are not really a lot for international students. So when you talk about scholarship for Australia, the first one is called the International Research Training Program Scholarship. So they call it the IRTPS. So this is the one that the Australian government allocates to the universities. So the universities will now, give it to the students who merited the scholarship, right? So, and they have another one that the universities give. So for my university, JCU, we have the JCU PRS. So the JCU Postgraduate Research Scholarship. So that's the one that the uni will give. And that one is very, very limited. So they can give it to international students or domestic students. But for the first one I mentioned, the IRTPS is basically for international students. Then they have Australian awards as well. So Australian awards is I think it's like a beautiful scholarship. I have friends who have the Australian awards. Why I'm saying beautiful because their own stipend is, higher than our own and other things attached to it. So the Australian government pays for you to come from your country and you do your master's degree here. So it only gives you opportunity for master's degree, and you can get the scholarship if you want if you're doing a PhD. So, but the condition is once you're done with your
You have to go back.
master's, you have to go back to wherever you're coming from and stay there for like 2 years. So
Wow.
even if you like, yeah, that's the condition. You have to sign the document. So you have to go back. So it's expected that whatever you learned here, you have to translate it, or take it back to your country. Make sure that, you get something done which relating to that. So yeah, so those are the three main scholarships. But there are other funding, bodies and very like smaller ones. They could be like a top-up scholarship while you are already started, So those are the ones you can still see. There are very, very few of them, and they are usually for domestic students as well. So, that's just the thing. That's why I say international student scholarship is quite competitive for Australia. And I didn't know all these things,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think as we keep talking, I'll still talk about, the requirements and other things that we need to know. Other ways we can really source them out, like for instance, the scholarship positions. That's a website that you can subscribe to, send your email to them, and they will send you newsletters about scholarships.
Just for Australia?
No, it depends on if you filter it. So if you
Okay.
want across Australia, New Zealand, Canada, US, everywhere. So while I was in Nigeria, I did that a lot. So I got a lot of emails from them. And another thing is ResearchGate. So yeah. So one of my housemates, he got his scholarship from ResearchGate. He saw something about scholarship there, and I was like, oh, I didn't know about that. He's like, yeah. So he said, when you go to the job section, job offer section or whatever, so you find it there. So yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. It's a lot. But something I picked that I find really interesting is that you're saying for Australia, the steps, the procedure is you have to get a professor, then you get admission before you can even apply for scholarship. It's similar to, I think there's some scholarships in Japan that also follow that procedure, but there's another one that you can actually get the admission and the scholarship. So from what you're saying, the admission paperwork and the scholarship paperwork are two different things entirely. So from what you said something in the line, you mentioned three major scholarships, and you said they can either give it to international or this. Now, which one is open for people who are still back at home that want to come down to Australia as a
Okay.
scholarship?
Yeah. So I will. touch on that, but I will just say based on my application. So now everything has changed. For
Okay.
our uni, I don't know about some unis down south, like in Sydney, Melbourne, but for our uni now, I think it was last year, they changed it. So scholarship application and admission application will be at the same time. So they'll
Oh,
start at the same time and close at the same time. So once they send you email, they'll say, oh, you got the admission, but
you did
you
not
didn't
get
get
scholarship.
it. Or,
Okay.
oh, you got the admission and you also got the scholarship. Congratulations. So things have really changed because they feel like it's a shorter process if they do it like that. Anyway, so that is the first one. So it's about what you talked about, the scholarship that international students who are back home will want to be looking out for is the IRTPS, the International Research Training Program Scholarship, and also the Australian Award. So Australian Award is solely for master's degree. For IRTPS is usually for higher degree by research students. So, and most of them are PhD students. So those are the ones that they will give. They have more numbers to give out. But then we also have to know that when we're talking about competitive nature of the scholarship, we're also imagining, you're applying, someone from Canada is applying,
Apply, yeah.
someone from US, someone from, some European countries is applying. So, it's just crazy. So you just see that it's really, it's very competitive. Yeah.
So do you know, like, do you as in how they proceed your work? More like, okay, you've gotten the admission, how they, for some scholarships, I'm aware after the maybe paperwork, you have to be scheduled for interview. After the interview, you have to be scheduled for maybe medicals or something. Do you know how the procedure works? And can you run us through how the procedure works for the
Okay.
IRTPS? So,
Yeah. Okay. So for someone that, let's say for instance, somebody gets an IRTPS while the person was in Nigeria. So you've gotten an email, oh, congratulations, you got the scholarship, you got the admission, you can start working your way around, visa application and the rest of them. So there are no interviews, you know, if there was room for
just
that,
paperwork for the
yeah,
scholarship. Just
yeah,
oh.
yeah. So paperwork, you have to be really detailed. And I'll just want you to remind me at some point so that I can point out some basic things we need to know about the paperwork. It's
Mm.
very, very
I was still
important.
going to even ask that.
Yeah, so
About the application, the paperwork, what are the, let's say, tips or let's say tricks on common mistakes people make? Maybe we'll start from tips and tricks, then we'll end with common mistakes. I don't know, but tips, tricks, common mistakes. Just run us through how to apply, like people are wanting to apply to this scholarship,
yeah.
how to apply. Yeah.
So one thing I never knew was the power of having a publication before
Mm,
that. And that is one thing we have to know as Nigerians, as Africans. I did my master's in Unilag. They weren't really pedantic about, publishing before you graduate. And I heard now that some universities, for a master's degree student, you have to publish at least one paper, So, and it's quite interesting. A friend did hers at Hong Kong, and she told me that she had to publish two papers. That was the criteria before you get your master's degree. So the first thing I'll tell everyone is if you want to, because the master's degree is actually a pointing system. So
yeah.
if for instance you have a publication where you are the first author, you have a point to that. If you have a publication where you are the second author, you have a point. If you have a publication where you are the last author, you have a point. And in Australia, they they regard first author, second author, and the last author. So the last author is expected to be the head of the team.
Mm,
So, but in Nigeria, it's different
yeah.
because, yeah, so everybody wants to be, I'm either the first or second, and but when the person is the last author and you are coming to an Australian perspective, it's to your own advantage, right? Yeah. So that's one thing we don't know. And you have to have that publication. If you don't, you're wasting your time. And I never had a publication. It was here that I had my first publication while I was in Australia. Yeah. So if you don't, you are losing marks because you don't have any points. Your point is still like dwindling, right?
Wow.
And you also, they don't even consider academic posters for conferences. Oh, you have it in your CV. Oh, good on you. But they want the output, like, research. Have
Yeah.
you got any publication? And now I'm talking about publication, Choma. I want to also stress that there are a lot of predatory journals that will tell you, oh, publish here and this one free, no publishing fee and everything. So Australia has a website they call ERA, list
Okay.
of journals. So it's called the Excellence Research for Australia. So if your journal, the journal you publish your article is not in that list, you are wasting your time.
Wow.
Yeah. So yes. So
So
if
it's not just to have publication, that is to have it in a journal they even recognize.
yeah, yeah, for
Okay.
people in the medical field, if most journals under Scopus and all these databases like Scopus Medline, this is for medical field, they will usually be on that ERA list, in that ERA list. So if, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to run down our country, but people that go to all these Nigerian journal of this one journal of this, it's good to also patronize our journal. But if you want to really step up and, see yourself to compete with people,
Yeah.
then read, because I had to look at the ERA list of journal. Nigerian journals and
I'm not there.
no.
Okay.
So if you have like maybe 10 publications, in Nigerian journal of this, or even some African journal of this or Asian journal of this, once it's not in that list, sorry, you're wasting your time. So they don't count it. So I will first of all say, if you've done undergrad and you want to come to Australia for a master's degree or a PhD, the first thing you want to do is publish.
Even if you can attach and be the last name,
Oh,
attach.
oh,
Yeah.
you
Since,
know,
since,
you know
since
what
they recognize last names there, so
yeah,
attaching is enough.
yeah. So if you become the last person, you become the head of the team. Yeah, so good for you. So I would advise people, publish, publish, talk to your supervisors, get the paper out there, but then be mindful of predatory journals. You don't want to send it to a predatory journal because you just waste your whole effort. It doesn't make sense. Do you
Mm.
understand what I mean now? So those are the things they are looking out for. And if you really had like a work experience, you worked in a research lab, and let's say you've worked in a research lab that has to do about allergies or food, whatever, and your PhD or your master's degree is related to that, it will still count. Yeah, it will still count. Yeah, it does count for you as well because you've had like previous experience, and because that means they won't really take you through a lot of training to get you to where they want you to be because you've had
Yeah.
like previous training. But then, they count publications than conference presentations. So
Wow.
yeah.
So what's like common mistake people like you run people through applying? I understand that now. So what is one common mistake, one very occurring mistake that people make, and you're like you have just address it if you have any.
Oh, to be honest, I can't even think about any common mistake because the application is really like straightforward.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay.
So people may think, because you have poster presentation, it doesn't count. Fine, in your CV is good. You have a voluntary work experience, is good as well. They will like it in your CV. Those things will help you to get admission. But for scholarship, is basically,
Mm.
mostly about publication, about work in research lab in related areas to what you want to do. So that's what they are more interested in.
Mm.
Yeah, because the form is just straightforward.
Okay. So now, one thing I want to also get now is this scholarship for just science or science and art or medical? Because you're
Every,
a medical student.
everyone, like
Everybody, art,
engineering,
science,
yeah,
medical students.
law, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it makes sense now. Wow. Wow. Okay. You're about to say something.
Yeah, so I was just saying, they have, it depends on what you want to bring to the plate. If you have an interesting proposal, they will give you scholarship. And then again, you also want to be mindful of the fact that it's highly competitive. There's another advice I give to students is people apply for scholarship, want to come to Australia, and they start going to Sydney, want to go to Melbourne. Like Sydney and Melbourne is like, the Tokyo of Japan, and
Yes.
the very big cities. But now, Australian government is trying to decongest those big cities and move people to regional areas. So, for instance, if taking for example, comparing if you've lived in Lagos Island, and somewhere like Ibadan, Ibadan is like a regional area, very quiet, and very fewer people there than Lagos Island that is highly populated, or somewhere like maybe in Soka and Lagos Island. So it's really, you can't compare the two. So they want to decongest the big cities. So I keep telling people, don't concentrate on those big cities. Fine, they have like a lot of advantages. They have like lots of job opportunities, and they have lots of funding. But now the government is moving most, not really most, some fundings to regional areas so that people can go there. So if you apply for, just type on Google regional universities in Australia, you see heaps of them. If you want to concentrate on those people, first, and maybe also spread your tentacles to the big cities and see what happens. Because I've noticed that the two that I got rejected in were down in the big cities, but this one, regional area, I just put it once and I got it. So yeah.
Wow. Thank you very much, like Nambi. Thank you very much. We could literally talk to you this thing because
I
man, there's so much. Yeah, there's
I
so much to talk about. And I'm really, really grateful. Thank you once again for gracing my channel. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. All thanks to Nambi too for gracing our channel. If you love this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, drop a comment, and importantly, subscribe. Nambi, I hope you subscribed.
already
All right, guys, see you next time on Chilo
Yeah,
Talks.
bye. It was
Bye
nice
for now.
having a chat with you, Choma. Take care. Bye.
All right.